My sister-in-law, Sarah, always said, raise sons in poverty, raise daughters in luxury. So, she constantly complained about her struggles and poverty to my nephew, Ethan. The formula she gave him was a cheap brand, 3 boxes for 100 yuan. If it weren't for her buying these dubious bulk items, we wouldn't have had to intervene. We all warned her that such things shouldn't be given to a child. But Sarah wouldn't listen. She even scolded us, accusing us of wanting to spoil him and get him used to extravagance. It wasn't until Ethan's 1-month birthday that the loose threads from a poor-quality sock Sarah bought tightened around his toe. Luckily, I discovered it in time, and his toe was left with only a faint scar. After that incident, Sarah finally became a little more restrained and began to learn about scientific child-rearing. Later, Ethan spent half of Sarah's savings on in-game purchases. Sarah, seething with anger, rushed to my house, yelling at me for not letting her instill a concept of saving in Ethan from the beginning, for spoiling him. During the argument, she accidentally pushed me out of a window during a struggle, and I died instantly. When I opened my eyes again, I was back on Ethan's 1-month birthday. My nephew's cries woke me from the pain. Before me was a crowd of relatives surrounding him. Sarah, seeing her son cry, immediately told my mother, Carol, to prepare milk. "Mom, please use the milk I just bought yesterday to make a bottle for Ethan," Sarah said. "It's that 100 yuan for 3 boxes type I got online, and it even came with a free bottle." My mother nodded in agreement and immediately called out to me, "Amelia, why are you just standing there? Can't you see Ethan crying? Go make his milk." As she spoke, she leaned closer to me and lowered her voice. "Use the good milk I told you to buy." Looking at my mother's still dark hair in front of me and my 1-month-old nephew, I slowly came to my senses. "Yes, Mom, I'll go make it right away." I turned and walked to where the formula was kept. A moment later, I finished preparing it and handed it to my mother. Instantly, the room was filled with the sweet smell of milk. Smelling it and seeing the color in the bottle, my mother's face darkened. "Amelia, did you make the milk as I told you?" she demanded. I nodded blindly, replying loudly enough for Sarah to hear. "Mom, I'm sorry, I worked late overtime yesterday, and all the baby stores were closed, so I couldn't buy the good kind." My mother asked, "Is this milk made from the brand Sarah bought?" "Good milk, what good milk?" Sarah interjected, puzzled. My mother panicked, reaching out to stop me from speaking. "Sarah, I said your milk was too cheap, not good quality, so I told Amelia to buy a premium box to replace it, so Ethan would be safe drinking it." Sarah's face immediately turned cold. "Mom, what do you mean by that?" No, it's nothing. Don't listen to Amelia's nonsense. I just saw a good brand online and wanted to let Ethan try it to see which one he liked best." "Oh, well, let's see if my Ethan likes the milk I bought," Sarah said, picking up the bottle. As we talked, the bottle of milk I had just prepared was completely finished by my nephew. My mother hesitated, about to speak, when there was a knock at the door. She immediately stood up and ran to open it. "Hello, ma'am, the formula you ordered has arrived." My mother took the package I had ordered. Inside was the good milk she had told me to buy. "Mom, the milk I just ordered online has arrived. Make another bottle for Ethan." "Amelia, are you crazy?" My mother exploded. Facing my mother's anger, I feigned innocence. Sarah, meanwhile, smiled, took the package from my mother, pulled out the milk carton and receipt, and addressed everyone in the room. "Aunties, uncles, look at this. A small box of milk like this costs 300 yuan and only lasts a week. I buy 3 boxes for 100 yuan. 1 box of this fancy brand is equivalent to 9 of mine, enough for Ethan for half a year. Which one is more economical?" With that, Sarah, feeling triumphant, took out her own milk, scooped a little from each type, and displayed them to the relatives for comparison. "Everyone, look. These 2 types of milk, whether it's the color, taste, or powder consistency, are no different. Why does this one cost 300, while mine is 100 for 3 boxes, and they even give 3 free bottles? Mine is clearly a better deal." Seeing Sarah's display, the relatives in the room, even if they didn't entirely agree, nodded along. Sarah, like a victorious rooster, continued, "See, this is just a trick by sellers. Buying at supermarkets or baby stores is always more expensive than online. The products are essentially the same. They just promote them with a lot of fanfare, claiming they add trace elements or calcium. All that advertising money comes straight from our pockets." Sarah's machine gun-like words left my mother speechless. In the end, of course, Sarah won. The box of milk I ordered was returned by her. I silently watched my nephew, who was being ignored by everyone, and a cold smile spread across my face. "Sorry, my dear nephew. This time I won't care about you anymore. Just keep those socks on a little longer." In my past life, Sarah often said, "Raise sons in poverty, raise daughters in luxury," believing that instilling a sense of frugality in a child must start young. My mother, Carol, outwardly praised Sarah for her resourcefulness and thriftiness, no matter what poor quality items she bought for Ethan. But behind her back, Carol would curse Sarah relentlessly. Then she'd send me to buy good quality items, which she would secretly replace in the old packaging. If it weren't for the whole family's strong opposition, Sarah would have been torn between buying 1 yuan a piece diapers and cloth diapers from a second-hand market. When rejected, Sarah would regretfully say, "Didn't our ancestors use these? Why can't we use them in modern times?" My mother was so furious she'd hide in her room and curse Sarah. People's ancestors used cloth diapers because disposable ones didn't exist. At most, they'd use good fabric from their own homes. But she goes and buys used items from who knows where without knowing their origin. Who knows if they're made from toxic waste cotton? How can she be so stingy and bring such bad luck into the house? After that, Sarah became even more unreasonable. She'd only look at the price, not the quality, buying anything as long as it was cheap. We all advised her that poor quality items could harm a child's health, but Sarah would scold us, accusing us of trying to spoil Ethan from a young age and giving him luxurious habits. Seeing that reasoning with her was useless, we occasionally secretly swapped out her cheap purchases when she wasn't looking. On Ethan's 1-month birthday, Sarah dressed him in the cheap, tiny socks she had bought. The surface of the socks was covered with cartoon bear designs made of threads, but inside, the loose threads were completely untrimmed and wrapped tightly around his toes. I had read news reports about how a single loose thread in a sock could injure an infant, so I specifically checked Ethan's feet. Fortunately, I discovered it in time, and his toe only had a small red mark. This incident truly frightened Sarah, and from then on, she gradually learned to be more cautious. Her poverty education for Ethan also became more scientific. But later, Ethan spent half of Sarah's savings on in-game purchases. Fearing his mother's scolding, he claimed I had taught him. Sarah, furious, stormed to my house to confront me. My mother, whom I always thought was on my side, actually joined in and scolded me. In the end, Sarah and I argued. She accidentally pushed me out of a window. I fell to my death. My mother even told outsiders that I had committed suicide due to depression. This time, I won't care about any of you anymore. Sarah, your poverty education and frugality. This life, I will definitely help you see it through to the end. My dear mother and nephew, you too will have to endure it as well. After Sarah's passionate speech, several aunts and relatives were diligently taking notes. But Sarah spoke too quickly, and they couldn't keep up, so they continued to cluster around her to learn more. Sarah, of course, happily shared her wisdom. The aunts endlessly praised her frugality and parenting style, even saying they would go home and re-educate their own daughters-in-law. "Sarah, your parenting methods are truly progressive. Why don't you start a live stream? That way, we can follow and learn from you regularly, and you can spread your child-rearing philosophy to even more people." Seeing the relatives around me nodding in agreement with my words, Sarah shot a glance at my mother, then shared her social media account with everyone, guiding each person on how to follow her. After seeing off the relatives, Sarah rubbed her aching cheeks and looked at me, who was watching TV, with a rare, gentle expression. "Amelia, I didn't realize you were so sensible." "Don't praise me, Sarah. I didn't do anything. They all came for your parenting methods," I said, deflecting. My flattery made Sarah even happier. She ignored my mother's murderous glare, sat back on the sofa, and turned on the TV to check the weather forecast. "Oh, right, Sarah," I said. "A cold snap is coming. Don't let Ethan catch a cold. My colleague's child ended up in the ICU just from not being careful and catching a cold. A single day in the hospital costs half a month's salary." Sarah nodded. "You're always so thoughtful, Amelia. Now that you mention it, I feel a chill in the house. We don't have heating yet. I need to be careful." With that, she took Ethan's clothes out of the closet, put another layer on him, held his kicking feet steady, and pulled his socks higher. Ethan frowned, on the verge of tears. Sarah quickly prepared milk and put the bottle in his mouth to soothe him. After doing all this, Sarah nodded with satisfaction, not forgetting to take a photo of Ethan drinking milk and post it on social media. Parenting diary, preventing colds as the cold weather approaches. Keeping warm is definitely the most economical way. Look at our Ethan. Small clothes, small socks, small blankets, all fully equipped. The post was accompanied by a photo of Ethan wearing 2 layers of clothing, nestled under a blanket, with teary eyes as he drank his milk. Not long after, the relatives who had followed Sarah earlier in the day rushed to like her post. I also quickly created a dummy account to follow Sarah. Comments poured in. This is the way. Better too warm than too cold. I need to tell my daughter-in-law to dress her child in more layers. Exactly. Otherwise, a cold means injections, and medicine is 3 parts poison. This frugal blogger is truly frugal. I wish my mother-in-law would see this. She always buys terrifyingly expensive things for my child. The kid doesn't know any better, and clothes get too small in a few days, such a waste. Sarah finished her face mask, lay on the sofa, and scrolled through her phone, reading each fan comment. When she saw the last comment, she couldn't help but like it. She uses such cheap things for her own son, but she's willing to spend money on herself. Who does she think she's dressing up for? My mother muttered aloud to Sarah, who was wearing her mask. This surprised me slightly. My mother had always been one to curse inwardly, but show nothing outwardly. It was rare for her to speak so directly. Oh, well, Sarah retorted. I need to take good care of myself now. When my son succeeds later, I, as his mother, will also have face. Unlike some people who have problems raising their own children and still want to meddle in others' business, ultimately losing both the thread and the needle. Sarah had never lost an argument with my mother. My mother, once again defeated, turned and went into her room. In truth, Sarah's frugality only applied to Ethan. Her so-called raise sons in poverty, raise daughters in luxury was actually about indulging herself. She cut corners on all the money that should have gone to Ethan to spend on herself. New face masks, new beauty devices, new autumn-winter coats, she never spared any expense for herself. The mask Sarah was wearing seemed to be a high-end brand that had been heavily advertised a few days prior. The next day, I received a business trip request from my company and didn't return home for a week. As soon as I walked through the door, I saw Sarah unpacking packages. I glanced at Ethan on the sofa. He was still wearing his bear-patterned socks. Seeing how worn and fuzzy the socks were, I could imagine they hadn't been taken off his feet for a whole week. I didn't dare think about the state of his toes at that moment. I looked at the pile of filming equipment on the floor. Sarah, are you planning to live stream? Yes, after you mentioned it that day, I went live the next. It was surprisingly effective. I even gained a few fans. I want to buy a professional set of equipment. My phone camera makes me look terrible. What did you bring back? Sarah finally looked up from her packages, pointing at the bag I was holding. I took the items out of the bag. Seeing the brand label on them, Sarah's face darkened. Amelia, I told you, don't buy such expensive things for Ethan. I know this brand. A single pair of socks costs 100 yuan. My mother, Carol, heard the commotion and came out of the kitchen. She saw the socks in my hand, snatched them, and praised them endlessly. Oh, now asterisk these are socks. So soft. Quickly, change them for him. His old socks have been worn for a week and are all fuzzy. My mother spoke while reaching to remove the socks from Ethan's feet. The moment she touched his foot, he kicked wildly. My mother cried out in pain, sucking in a sharp breath. Ethan, distressed, let out a piercing wail, his voice hoarse as if he had cried all his tears dry. My mother's hands didn't stop, but the sock, halfway off, seemed to get caught on something. This time, Ethan cried even louder. Mom, what are you doing? You're making him cry. Sarah immediately stood up, intending to pick up Ethan and comfort him. But my mother's hand was still gripping the sock on Ethan's foot, and fresh blood spurted out. Sarah held Ethan close, while my mother stood there, holding the freshly removed sock. Ah, blood, Ethan, why is he bleeding like this? Sarah also panicked, frantically checking her son's foot. My mother, seeing the blood stained on the sock in her hand and the fear of the thread tightening around Ethan's toe, also panicked and shouted, "Quickly, take him to the hospital." At the hospital, the doctor was visibly astonished when he saw Ethan's foot. After a series of diagnoses, he sighed regretfully. "I'm very sorry, but the thread has been wrapped around his toe for too long. The tissues in his toe have essentially necrosed. It can only be amputated." "Amputated? My child is only 5 weeks old," Sarah cried out in disbelief. "A newborn's skin is very delicate," the doctor explained, his voice tinged with anger. "As a mother, if you had just paid attention, if you had simply checked the socks carefully, you would have seen these loose threads. It wouldn't have come to this. Luckily, the ankle part of the sock wasn't tight, otherwise the whole foot would have to be amputated. If we don't amputate it now, it could spread up his leg. You family members should discuss among yourselves." Despite her reluctance, Sarah had no choice but to sign the consent form for surgery to save her son's foot. During the operation, the three of us waited outside. My mother handed me the hospital bill, intending for me to pay. I didn't reach out to take it. Sarah, seeing my inaction, immediately stepped in front of me and slapped me across the face. "Amelia, this is all your fault for buying those socks. You unjustly caused my son to have his toe amputated. You must take responsibility. Go pay the hospital bill for your nephew right now." The slap sent me sprawling onto the long bench. Patients around us turned to stare, and some even pulled out their phones to record. I bit hard into my thigh, tears immediately gushing out, and I wailed, "How is this my responsibility? I only brought those socks today, they weren't even worn yet, and you're blaming me. Are you trying to frame me? And I wasn't the one who pulled out the blood. Besides, he's just my nephew, not my son. Aren't you his mother? Shouldn't you pay?" Sarah, shamed by my words, raised her hand to strike me again. I immediately ducked behind my mother. "Mom, please help me. You usually take my salary to compensate our brother's family. I never said anything, but this time I can't let Sarah frame me." I sobbed hysterically, my tears and snot smearing all over my mother's clothes. She looked disgusted, trying to push me away, but I clung tightly to her clothes, preventing her from moving. Sarah, thinking my mother was defending me, grew even angrier. Her voice rose an octave as she pointed directly at my mother's face and scolded. "Yes, and you too. I was so busy scolding Amelia that I forgot about you. You damn old woman, why were you using so much force? You tore off the sock and made his toe bleed. I've never seen a grandmother as cruel as you. My son's toe being amputated is your fault." My mother was also enraged. Sarah's public humiliation stripped her of all dignity, making her face flush crimson. "What does that have to do with me? Those cheap, poor-quality socks were your purchase. You didn't even check for loose threads inside before putting them on him. I haven't even accused you of harming my grandson yet." "That's right, Sarah," I chimed in, still hiding behind my mother, crying and adding fuel to the fire. "I have to say, it's your fault for buying bad-quality items, being greedy for cheap things, and bringing disaster upon yourself. You even want to frame me. I was away working for a whole week, I just barely got home, and you're casually blaming me." The two of them were now fiercely arguing, rolling up their sleeves and starting to shove each other. I hastily poured more oil on the fire. "Mom, that day you even told me Sarah only knew how to save money haphazardly and always gave Ethan faulty items. You said something would happen sooner or later, and I even advised you not to talk about Sarah like that. I've been so good to you, and you treat me like this. Look at the result, Sarah. Isn't your son being harmed by this bad-tempered mother of yours?" At this, I patted my mother's shoulder. "Mom, you were right. Sarah was bound to get into trouble sooner or later. It's really come true." "You old hag, how dare you curse my son? Amelia, what nonsense are you spouting? When did I ever say that?" My mother's words were cut short as Sarah pushed her, making her stumble. My mother no longer cared about dignity. The two of them started fighting fiercely right outside the operating room. Even the medical staff couldn't pull them apart. My mother even chased me, trying to hit me a few times. I quickly ran into the crowd of onlookers, still crying, and didn't forget to ask for videos of their fight from the excited spectators. Sarah's hair was disheveled by my mother, and my mother's collar was torn. Both of them looked utterly pathetic. It wasn't until Ethan was wheeled out of the operating room that the two women finally paused their battle. The surgery was very successful. Both of Ethan's little toes were saved. Fortunately, with later practice, it wouldn't affect his normal walking. Back home, my brother Daniel also had a huge argument with Sarah over this incident. In his anger, he threw out all the poor quality formula, diapers, socks, and clothes Sarah had bought. Sarah, knowing she was in the wrong, remained silent. My mother finally got her revenge. In front of my brother, she took out her phone and ordered several branded items, forcing Sarah to pay for them on the spot for Ethan to use. Sarah gritted her teeth and paid. Little did she know, my mother's single shopping cart had already maxed out Sarah's daily spending limit, causing her purse to bleed dry. Sarah had no one to complain to, so during her live stream, she poured out her grievances, playing the victim. My sisters, I'm truly suffering. I wanted to be a good example for my son, but in the end, my mother-in-law doesn't understand, and my husband doesn't support me. I might not be able to continue sharing my parenting experiences with you all because even I can barely hold on anymore. Her fans immediately responded with supportive comments. Don't be sad, channel owner, we support you. That's right, successful people are often underestimated at first, but we still want to keep learning your parenting philosophy. I showed your live stream to my mother-in-law that day. Now we're all following Ethan's growth together. You can't stop updating. Seeing their favorite channel owner about to go inactive, fans rushed to console her, with some even taking the lead in sending gifts. This played right into Sarah's hands. Sarah continued to order cheap items online, mixing them into the branded bags she had bought, making my mother believe she had truly learned her lesson and was starting to raise Ethan scientifically, which put her at ease. Sarah's account flourished based on her image of economical parenting, and brands seized the opportunity of her growing fame to invite her for advertisements. For a time, she earned countless profits, and even my mother treated her much more warmly. The family finally enjoyed a period of harmony. But I wasn't idle. I created my own live streaming account. Relying on memories from my past life, I knew which celebrities would be exposed for selling substandard products. The first person I exposed was a channel owner with millions of fans. When I confronted him live, the evidence I presented made netizens exclaim how professional it was. Many other bloggers were also successively exposed. It wasn't until the authorities intervened and blocked his account that I became famous overnight. Later, when Ethan went to school, he came home one day crying after class. The whole family pressed him until he finally spoke. During PE class, he was wearing the poor quality socks Sarah had bought, and while running and jumping, he had lost them. Seeing his toes, everyone gasped, even the teacher was stunned. Ethan, feeling only discomfort from everyone's reaction, ran back to class before the period ended and sat stubbornly at his desk until school was dismissed. Sarah, hearing this, immediately became furious. The next day, she demanded to go to the school to confront the administration. My mother tried to stop her but couldn't, and even called me specifically to ask for help, begging me to intervene. I, of course, couldn't get involved, though I agreed with my mother verbally. But when I actually arrived at the school, Sarah had already presented the situation to the administration. The administration called Ethan's homeroom teacher and PE teacher and demanded that the entire class apologize to Ethan. After that, his classmates all avoided Ethan, and he became increasingly isolated. Sarah went back to live streaming, continuing to play the victim, telling her fans this story and saying that his classmates were isolating her son just because he had a physical defect. Fans who didn't know the full truth enthusiastically defended Sarah and Ethan in the comments section. At the same time, a video appeared in the fan group. It was the video of my mother, Sarah, and me fighting outside the operating room that year. The audio of the video was excellent. Every word could be clearly heard. Is the channel owner really like that? Exploiting her sister-in-law with her mother-in-law and then fighting? The channel owner doesn't seem like that kind of person. What was that I heard about amputation? I heard it clearly. It's because the channel owner saved money by buying poor quality socks for her child, which led to his toe being amputated, and then she blamed her mother-in-law and sister-in-law, even making the sister-in-law pay the hospital fees. This character. The defect on Ethan's foot wasn't congenital. It was caused by the channel owner buying poor quality socks. Fans in the group were abuzz with discussion. Some even stormed into Sarah's live stream, asking, "What are you all saying? What poor quality socks? What wrapped around his foot? Where did this story come from? Sarah, who was in the middle of her victim narrative, abruptly switched to selling, looking bewildered. Channel owner, don't deny it, we've seen the video. Your son's foot defect wasn't congenital. It was because you carelessly put damaged socks on him, causing his toe to be amputated. You lied to us. You deceived your fans. Yes, you lied to us. How could you lie to us about something like that, exploiting our sympathy? Tell us what else is true. Oh my God, and we believed her so much. Even the mask she sells, I broke out in acne after using it, but I just blamed myself. As soon as this comment was posted, many other fans joined in, recounting the side effects of the masks they had used. Sarah immediately retorted, "My sisters, I've said it before, you have to let your skin build tolerance. If you broke out, it's because you haven't built enough tolerance yet. I use it every day, and I'm fine, so how could you not be?" However, the fans paid no attention to her words. Sisters, I've noticed that the anonymous king of exposure has been really impressive lately. Channel owner, if you have nothing to hide, connect with him and let him verify your products. If your products are truly problem-free, we'll apologize to you. I personally will buy 10,000 yuan worth of your products. Exactly, +1, I'll also buy 10,000. Hearing about the 10,000 yuan purchase, Sarah immediately agreed. All right, as long as you all are happy. Sarah's fans all rushed to the anonymous King of Exposure's page to leave comments. Very quickly, one fan's comment received a reply. A week later, the King of Exposure announced the results. The products Sarah was selling indeed contained substandard additives. Seeing her fans all confronting her, Sarah hastily posted a screenshot of her conversation with the King of Exposure, claiming that due to an unsuccessful collaboration, he had slandered her. The screenshot also showed a received transfer of 100,000 yuan. The King of Exposure immediately responded by releasing the full recording, stating that the money had been refunded through the platform's witnessing, and it was only due to slow system processing. Sarah was forced to resort to playing the victim again, saying that she had reluctantly started selling products to cure her son's condition. Just as she regained a little sympathy, she was exposed by another fan. The platform, seeing Sarah's overly negative influence, processed refunds for buyers and then locked her account. As a result, she couldn't withdraw the money in her account, and the masks she had sold to fans remained in stock. Sarah had no choice but to use them herself. While Sarah was busy complaining to the platform, no one noticed that I, Amelia, had used my brother Daniel's name to send a new educational tablet home. It was preloaded with all the popular games I had installed. My mother, Carol, thought my brother, who was working abroad, had bought it for Ethan's studies and didn't think much of it. It wasn't until Sarah discovered that Ethan had spent half of her savings on in-game purchases that my mother called me home. The moment I stepped through the door, Sarah rushed at me, scolding furiously. "Amelia, what are you trying to do?" I feigned innocence. "Sarah, what's wrong? Why are you so angry in broad daylight?" "See for yourself," she spat, tossing a stack of bank statements at me. "This is your nephew's game top-up history. All the money on the statements, from the initial 6 yuan and 30 yuan purchases to the later 19,898 yuan, filled 5 A4 pages. I told you, I should have stuck to my frugal education from a young age. Look, he's not even an adult, and he's already spending money recklessly on games. What will he be like when he grows up?" "Amelia, you're always traveling for work, struggling so much to support our family. But you, as his aunt, instead of being a good role model, you spoil him." Her words were an exact echo of what she had said in my past life, not a single word different. I didn't rush to refute her. "Sarah, you can eat carelessly, but you can't speak carelessly. Who told you that I taught Ethan to play games and spend money?" "HMPH, do you think my son is stupid? He told me everything. He said you, his biological aunt, taught him to play games and told him to buy skins. Now he's not just buying for himself. Almost all his classmates have a skin gifted by him. You also taught him that he needs to be generous to have friends, right?" "I taught him games?" I shifted my gaze to my mother. In that split second of eye contact, my mother immediately shrieked, "You ungrateful wretch, you make your own money but don't honor me, and now you're harming your brother's child. How dare you talk back to your sister-in-law?" Ethan still cowered on the sofa, not saying a word. I knelt down and asked him, "Ethan, tell me, did Auntie teach you about games?" He mumbled. Sarah, seeing my interaction, became even angrier, pushing me away from Ethan. "Amelia, what are you doing? How dare you use that tone to intimidate my son? You Tang family girl, if I don't discipline you, you won't respect me as an elder." I fell to the floor, Sarah's punches raining down on me. I quickly scrambled up to dodge. As I continuously retreated, I gradually found myself standing by the very window from which I had been pushed to my death in my past life. Having experienced that feeling of death and weightlessness once, my brain felt paralyzed. I simply crumpled to the floor. In the process, my arm was scratched by a flower stand, but I didn't even notice. Sarah's punch missed, and unsteady on her feet, she stumbled towards the spot where I had fallen in my previous life. Luckily, she managed to grab hold of the clothesline just in time. I pretended to help pull her back. My mother also rushed over. The small balcony suddenly became crowded. I pulled out my phone, opened the self-media account I had created just days ago, and played the only video I had posted. The video looked like I was filming myself, but the empty space in the frame was actually the entire process of my mother leading Ethan in playing games. Both their voices were clearly recorded. "Grandma, this game is so fun." "Good boy, as long as you like playing, Grandma just wants you to be happy." "Look, Grandma even left 10 yuan in here for you. You can buy any skin you like." I held up my phone, playing the video, ensuring the volume was loud enough for all three of them to hear. Ethan, hearing it, let out a loud wail. "Mom, I was wrong, I shouldn't have lied. Grandma taught me. Grandma said if Mom found out, I should say Auntie taught me." Both Sarah and I looked towards my mother. Sarah was seething with rage, while I was utterly incredulous. "Mom, you not only taught my son to play games and told him to spend money recklessly, but now you're teaching him to lie too? Mom, I'm your biological daughter. How could you frame me and harm me like this?" "Daughter-in-law, no, it wasn't me. Amelia, Mom didn't. For a moment, my mother didn't know who to explain to first, panicking so much her hands flailed aimlessly. I silently clenched my fists. "Mom, this life, you'll experience what it feels like to be unable to justify yourself, even with 100 mouths. But it's all your own doing. Stop talking, Mom. If you don't care about having this daughter, then don't call me anymore after this." With that, I stood up, opened the door, and walked out without looking back. Outside the door, I blocked my mother's phone number. Going back to the small apartment I had just rented, I turned on the surveillance camera that my brother had left. At this moment, my mother, Sarah, and Ethan were still confronting each other in the living room. "Daughter-in-law, Mom was wrong, don't be angry. From now on, if you say east, Mom won't dare to go west. Mom will absolutely not oppose you, and will absolutely not interfere with your education of Ethan. Okay." Sarah had only been waiting for this from my mother and immediately agreed. "Okay, Mom, you said it. No one's forcing you. Oral promises aren't evidence. Write a commitment letter." "If I don't write it, then I'll tell your son and see if he sends you back to the countryside to an old folks' home." Although the old woman didn't want to avoid returning to the countryside and still be able to see her beloved grandson every day, she had to swallow her pride and write the commitment letter. Afterward, Sarah called the game's customer service to request a refund for a minor. Once the money was back in her account, she deleted Ethan's game account and confiscated his tablet. She even gave Ethan an old, broken black and white phone she found somewhere, so old it could only make and receive calls, not even play Snake. With the game money refunded, all the skins Ethan had gifted to attract friends were revoked. This was enough to humiliate Ethan, but now he also had to use a phone that crumbled at a touch, leaving him utterly unable to hold his head high. At the same time, Sarah's account finally had its complaint successfully processed. She didn't dare to sell products immediately but continued to share her parenting experiences. To boost her account's popularity, Sarah resumed her poverty education methods. Every day, she made Ethan come home for lunch. The total lunch break was only 1 hour, and the round trip for Ethan was exactly 1 hour. The academic pressure in high school was immense. Many children ate lunch near school so they could nap for a bit. If Ethan wanted to sleep, he couldn't go home to eat. He could only go hungry. This was because Sarah only gave him 10 yuan a week for pocket money, which was only enough for a bowl of noodles or 2 packets of instant noodles, enough for just one meal. Therefore, Ethan was often not full or didn't get enough sleep. Throughout his 3 years of high school, Ethan became increasingly thin, and sleep deprivation made him gloomy. But Sarah didn't pay attention. Each time, she proudly boasted to her fans that her frugal methods were effective and had saved a lot of money from Ethan. Some fans even followed suit, making their children suffer. It wasn't until Ethan was admitted to a public university near home that he expected his mother to give him a bit more pocket money. The result was only 500 yuan per month. Ethan called to question Sarah, who said, "As long as you don't spend money recklessly and just eat your meals, it's completely enough. How much does the school cafeteria cost? You have to be frugal." My mother, Carol, watching Ethan grow thinner, became increasingly heartbroken. But she was afraid that if Sarah tattled, she would be sent back to the countryside. She had grown accustomed to the convenient city life and didn't want to return to her dilapidated farmhouse of over 10 years. She secretly told Ethan to seek me out. When I picked Ethan up from school, I almost didn't recognize him. I took him to a nearby restaurant and quietly waited for the thin boy in front of me to finish eating. "Auntie, thank you," I smiled. Ethan bit his lip, seemingly finding it hard to speak, but finally opened his mouth. "Auntie, could you give me some pocket money?" I wasn't surprised by his request. Looking at his hopeful eyes, I gently shook my head. "I'm sorry, Ethan, I can't give it to you. It's not for any other reason, but your mother, my sister-in-law, is a very strict person. If I help you, she'll fight with me later. If you don't believe me, look." I rolled up my sleeve to reveal the scar from the argument about his game top-ups years ago. "This is the scar your mother left when she fought with me. Not only that, ever since you were born, our family has argued with your mother many times because of you." Ethan's face filled with disappointment, and he stood up, about to leave. "Ethan, how are your feet? Do you have any difficulty walking? That year, I spent a lot of money to invite good doctors to treat you. But speaking of which, if it weren't for the socks your mother bought, you wouldn't have gone through all that." I quickly covered my mouth. "Oh, why am I saying these things? So many years have passed, I'm sure you're used to it by now." Ethan said nothing, just clenched his fists. I walked him to the school gate. Before he left, I said, "Ethan, don't blame your mother. That year, she also wanted to educate you well, which is why she emphasized frugality. But a normal university student's living expenses of 1,500 yuan a month are perfectly sufficient. You also need to understand your mother's intentions and practice frugality, okay? Or if it's not enough, go get a part-time job to earn some pocket money. Oh, and also, don't let your mother know you came to see me today, or she'll definitely come to cause trouble for me." Ethan held back his tears and nodded. That evening, Ethan returned home and demanded that Sarah increase his living allowance. "Mom, why do you only give me 500 yuan for living expenses? My roommates get at least 1,500. Sarah was so furious that the face mask she had just applied cracked. "They're just wasteful spenders with no self-control. They spend whatever they get with no concept of saving. The 500 yuan I give you is what I've calculated. It's perfectly sufficient. You brat, how dare you yell at your mother over this? All my lessons to you have been for nothing, you ungrateful child." "How dare you speak?" Ethan retorted, his voice rising. "If it weren't for your frugality, how would my foot have been amputated? You made me wear socks full of loose threads and then stuffed me with clothes because you were afraid a cold would cost money. A single pair of socks for a whole week. What kind of family raises a baby with socks like that? I was lucky Auntie found out in time, otherwise I'd be in a wheelchair right now. This is all your fault." You, Sarah, enraged, ripped the face mask off her face. "Who told you all this? It's all lies. If I was just saving your money, then who paid your hospital bills? Who paid for your toe amputation?" "Don't lie, Mom, it was clearly Auntie who paid." Ethan looked up, meeting Sarah's face, too scared to speak. "What did you say? Mom, what's wrong with your face?" Ethan's voice trembled as he pointed at Sarah's face. "What's wrong with my face? Isn't it just because you made your mother so angry that my mask fell off? What's so surprising?" My mother, Carol, heard the commotion and rushed over. Seeing Sarah's face, she fainted from shock. Sarah and Ethan clumsily helped my mother onto the bed. When Sarah went to get medicine, her eyes happened to catch her reflection in the mirror. Only then did she discover that the left side of her face had peeled off, while the right side was swollen and red. The exposed mask she couldn't sell, she had to use herself to avoid waste. But she never imagined that the additives in the masks, when used long-term, would be so harmful. Doctors at a reputable hospital stitched up the peeled skin, but Sarah was completely dissatisfied with the results. Ignoring the doctor's advice, she ran to various beauty clinics, trying every kind of restoration treatment. Anywhere that advertised they could restore similar cases, she went. By the beginning of the month, Ethan repeatedly checked his bank account balance, but there was no activity. Sarah was in no state of mind to send him living expenses. My mother, Carol, was also so shocked by the scene that she suffered a stroke, now bedridden. Sarah fed her only one meal a day before going out for her skin restoration treatments. My brother, Daniel, had been dispatched to Africa for work several years prior and was even more unreachable. Ethan initially could borrow money from his roommates to get by, but eventually he couldn't pay them back, and no one wanted to lend him any more. Then, one day, Ethan not only paid off all his roommates' debts, but also started receiving countless packages and food deliveries daily. This couldn't help but make his roommates tease him. "Ethan, did you win the lottery? Or has your mother suddenly become generous? I think the lottery is more likely, ha ha ha." His roommates' teasing didn't affect Ethan's good mood. He continued to spend money like water, until a flurry of debt collection messages filled his inbox. Calls from debt collectors to his home, his roommates, and his homeroom teacher finally made Ethan panic. Afraid his family would find out he had taken out a large online loan, he persuaded his slowly recovering grandmother, Carol, to change the home phone number. To his friends and homeroom teacher, he simply said his phone was lost. But people weren't stupid. Ethan's wildly extravagant spending, coupled with the debt collection calls, made it all too clear. Seeing that things seemed to have escalated, Ethan began frantically calling me, but I didn't answer. At this moment, a message appeared in my inbox. "Do you want to turn the tables and recover your capital?" Seeing that the message I had sent was read, I put down my phone and continued to train the new streamers under my wing. Sarah's face, after various aesthetic clinics, had recovered about 70 to 80%. If one didn't stand too close, the peeled skin was no longer noticeable. Today, she had no beauty appointments and was at home, peacefully spoon-feeding my mother. A rapid knocking at the door startled the two in the room. Sarah opened the door to find Ethan. "Ethan, you startled me. Why are you knocking like that? Didn't you bring your key?" she asked. As Ethan entered, he was accompanied by several burly men. The men came into the house without saying a word, just standing behind Ethan. "Who are these people, your classmates?" Sarah asked, confused. "Mom," Ethan began. The man standing at the head behind Ethan pulled out a list. "This is the amount your son owes us. He mortgaged this house. Today we're here to appraise it." "Debt? What debt?" Before Sarah could ask for details, the men had already spread throughout the house, taking pictures. After a while, one of them said, "Ethan, this house, according to the previous agreement, can cover all your debt. We'll come to claim the house in 3 days. You all should move out before then." With that, the men left, leaving only Sarah and Ethan in the living room. "Ethan, you need to explain this to your mother," Sarah demanded. "There's nothing to explain," Ethan replied, his face calm, but if you looked closely at the smile on his lips, you could clearly sense his abnormality. "I lost at gambling and mortgaged the house for the debt." At this, Sarah was stunned by Ethan's words, speechless for a long time. When she opened her mouth again, as expected, it was a torrent of curses. Ethan just smiled oddly, saying nothing. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Son, are you all right?" "I'm perfectly fine. How could I not be? My toe was amputated because of you, Mom. I'm fine. I was ridiculed and isolated by my friends at school. I'm fine. In high school, you only gave me 10 yuan pocket money. I either starved or didn't get enough sleep. I'm fine. In university, I only get 500 yuan for living expenses a month. I can't even afford enough food. I'm fine. I can only afford steamed buns at the school cafeteria every day. I'm fine. Of course I'm fine. I'm doing great. This is all thanks to your dedicated teaching, Mom." With each sentence, Ethan took a step forward. Sarah retreated a step, backing up, step by step, until she reached the balcony. "Are you blaming me? I did all that to teach you frugality. You should understand your mother's intentions." "I understand. Of course, I understand. I've experienced your intentions myself. It's all because of you that my life became a mess. I'm ridiculed as a cripple, mocked as a pauper. I can never hold my head high in front of others. It's all because of you, because of your extreme frugality education. If you had been fair, I wouldn't say anything. Everyone else is frugal, everyone eats sparingly. But not you. You're only frugal with asterisk me asterisk. Look at your face, Mom. How much money have you spent before and after? Every single yuan you saved from me, you spent on your face. You even showed off to your fans. Sometimes I wonder if you're my real mother. Mom, you deserve to have your face rot. You deserve to have your heart and liver rot too. I can't get ahead in this life, because I have a mother who cares about me so much. If not now, then let's meet in the next life. This last time, let me re-educate you. Ha ha. Along with Ethan's loud laughter, Sarah felt her whole body flying through the air. After pushing Sarah to her death from the window, Ethan intended to grab the valuables in the house and flee. Just as he reached the door, he was intercepted by the police officers I had called beforehand. Ultimately, Ethan was sentenced to prison for multiple charges, including intentional homicide and gambling. When the police informed me, my mother, Carol, also passed away from shock. After everything was settled, I changed my name, used the money I earned from the King of Exposure account to open a media company, and changed the company's name as well. With my new ID, a year later, I appeared on the pages of the billionaire ranking. This life, I finally lived for myself.